right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being a part of the Founderville.vc podcast. This is version 1.0. This is the very first podcast, and we are thrilled to have two wonderful gentlemen and benefactors, supporters of the Founderville.vc program. We've got Josh and Keith, the co-founders and head honchos of Designli. And Designli is an amazing software firm here in town. Been helping a lot of the Founderville.vc portfolio companies and many other companies. So, guys, welcome to the podcast, the very first one.
I didn't realize we were 1.0. That's
you're it, baby.
Breaking it in.
Yeah.
This is it. This is it. So this is our intro mission. We're fired up. You guys are here.
Love it.
But would love to just start by learning a little bit about you guys. Tell the viewers sort of give us your origin story personally, but tell us about Designli. Tell us about where you guys are today, how the company's doing, and we just love to learn more about it right now.
Yeah, we'll start with where we are today, and then we can go back in time to the messy 11-ish years that have led to now. But Designli today is a software development company. We're a services firm, so we build apps and web apps for our customers. And there's three kind of differentiating statements that we like to throw out. One is we focus on full-time teams. So our developers are fully dedicated to our customer success, pouring themselves into the mission until the mission's accomplished, and then we can take them away. But anyone that's done deep creative work knows that the context switching kind of kills your what you're looking to accomplish. So by assigning developers full time, they're really buying into what the customer is trying to accomplish. The second thing is multidisciplinary teams, and so it's not just developers we assign. Anyone that's run a SaaS product or built software at all knows that you really need great design. You need UX. You need a product owner to help manage the backlog and prioritize where the ship's going based on user feedback. You need quality assurance to make sure the customer's not the one testing everything and finding bugs and pulling their hair out and looking like me and him. And so ultimately what we do is assign a pod of folks to our customers, and the developers are full-time. And some of those fractional guys are 10 or 20 hours a week, the designer, PO, QA. And then the third benefit statement, or the thing we talk a lot about, is a 5-star experience. And so our mission is very simple, but it's profound in that our goal is to have every customer reach that 5-star experience bar of building software is normally frustrating and horrible, and there's a lot of horror stories, but everyone on our team is trying to make it a 5-star experience to the extent where that customer is willing to go and post a review on the internet.
Right.
There's a million websites that talk about development firms, and there's hundreds of thousands of them probably, if I was to guess. And so we've racked up over 200 5-star reviews. So that mission so far is successful. Yep. So that's what we do now. And then we can talk about how we got there, because it's been a winding road.
200 5-star reviews is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I look back at my entire career, I don't know if I have maybe 2 5-star reviews on most anything. But so anyway, congrats on that. That's pretty amazing. And again, we're fired up you guys are here.
Yeah. What's the firm look like in terms of head count, team? How many customers you guys working with? Give us a kind of a feel for scale.
So right now we have somewhere around the lines of like 55 people, so mainly based in Latin America. So we've done work pretty much all over the world, but we've landed pretty much on Latin America right now because we're doing a lot of nearshoring. So the idea is that as we've transitioned to more agile frameworks away from like milestone-based work, we're really, I think nearshoring is kind of the sweet spot between price, quality, and then also that time zone is a huge thing. So yeah, we have about 55 people and growing. So yeah.
And they're all over.
Pretty much everywhere in Latin America.
Yeah,
Yep.
all over. Okay.
And customer-wise, we've got about 30 customers actively in various stages. And we do discoveries and design work.
Is that about sort of the portfolio that you typically keep is in that 30 range?
Ish.
Drop a few, gain a few.
Ish. Yeah. It's marching up with time. You talk a lot about the flywheel of, building a business. So it's just kind of notching year by year.
Right.
Yeah.
Little by little, hold on to them. So great success. Congratulations. You guys, it's a long slog, right? 11 years flies by, but it's hard to get to that point where you can say, yes, this is absolutely working for us, and we're successful with it. Take us back a little bit to the earliest days when it was an idea and you guys were joining forces together. How did you guys meet? What was the vision that originally sort of compelled you to one, become an entrepreneur, two, to do it together, and three, to serve a certain niche in the market?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, we actually met in 8th grade at lunch, actually. I was a weird homeschool kid, and I just went to school, and Keith's like, this kid looks lost. It's like
You came in at 8th grade lunch. It was like your first,
Yeah, I was like, oh my
entry
gosh.
into the public.
Oh, man.
What is the world? Yeah.
So Keith flagged me down and sat down there for lunch, and the rest is history, I guess. But yeah, so we became friends, and we played video games together and stuff like that. And we're in the same classes because we're in all like the AP classes and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think in high school we were both interested in engineering. We both went to school for mechanical. Your big thing was renewables, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'll get into that too. So we did that, went to school, and then around sophomore year we were looking for internships. And I was looking at like aerospace type of companies, and I don't know what you were looking at, software, I think. But he's like, man, I just don't want to do this. I want to do my own thing. So we had this idea for a company called Applets. I'll let you talk about that. But we started that sophomore year. We raised like a small seed round from friends and family, and we went through that really fast.
Friends and fools.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We did. Yeah, we did. They actually made a return, which is great.
True. Yeah, not fools.
Paid them back.
Not fools. In this case.
a winner.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of our origin story. It was a different company, but it transitioned into what we have today.
Yeah. So Keith, that was I just don't want to do this. I don't want to pursue this traditional path.
Yeah.
What was the driver for that? What was disgusting about that to you to the point of like, I'm not going to do that?
Well, to his point, you go in mechanical engineering because you want to design a rocket or a plane or whatever, and then you start looking at the internship stuff, and it's like, oh, you're going to live in AutoCAD and work on this one little bolt that's in the wheel,
The landing gear assembly.
and that's what you're going to do for like a year is like run simulations against that. And so it's not nearly as compelling, I don't think. Not that I ever practiced as a mechanical engineer in my professional life, but
just didn't light you up.
Looking at it as a sophomore, it's like, okay. And my dad's always been an entrepreneur. He took over my grandpa's company, so grandpa started something. Yeah. And so that's kind of always been in the old DNA, I guess. And so real quick on the Applets story, because it's relevant, we wanted to start something. We didn't have any idea for what a company could be. You're like, this was the summer of 2012. So Instagram sold to Facebook for $1 billion with no revenue at all. So it's like, okay, apps are a thing. Yeah, obviously. And so we started this monthly app idea competition where folks could come on, submit a little napkin sketch of what they wanted the next big app to be, vote on their favorites, kind of like a Reddit user interface with the upvote, downvote thing. And we would go and build the highest voted apps at the end of each month, split the profits with the people that helped name it and design it and whatever. So the idea was, we could fast forward past the story after this. The idea was at the time, if you could get 20,000 downloads on the first day of launching a new app, you'd be in the top 100 charts, and then organic traffic flows in. So we're like, if we get 20,000 users voting on their favorites and then downloading it on day one, then you can just always do that. So
lured by the riches of Instagram.
At 20 years old.
Yeah, right. without any ideas of our own. So it's like let's.
So when did the official Designli become a thing?
Right, exactly. So we ran that first company for 3 years. Guess how much revenue we made?
Not much
total. You could guess. I remember the number. $1,800.
Nice.
So 3 years, $1,800. Not a big win.
Yeah.
But we learned a lot about the trials and tribulations of trying to build apps, which is like we had this investment round. We're paying companies to build the apps for us in India and China and New York and like all over the place.
You're running a model.
Cheap
You're
firms,
losing money, but running a model.
Yeah, cheap firms, expensive firms, and it's like regardless of who we're paying to build apps, it seems kind of straightforward. Like here's money, give me some software.
Yeah,
it was just a pain in the butt. There's no clear communication. It's kind of a black box. You have no idea what's going on until like 6 months later. Here's some buggy thing for you to install on your phone, and matching up your vision with what you get in your hand. A couple months later was very hard to do. So that was the inspiration of someone's got to be able to do this better. We should try to do services, and we needed to make more than $1,800. Right. we wanted to avoid real jobs after graduation. So that was kind of
interestingly on that though, you raise money on that company.
Yeah.
Right. But Designli, it's you two. Right. How did that happen? What was the experience raising capital? What did that feel like? You said you were 20 at the time?
Yep.
Thereabouts, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So completely clueless, right? I mean, when it comes to that, I would imagine. I know I would be. But then how did you get through that? And then hey, let's just do this on our own and bootstrap and not raise capital.
Yeah, I think the raising capital experience was we just approached everybody we possibly knew to invest in us, and we had a business plan. I don't remember if we had designs at that point. I think we did have some really preliminary designs, and maybe even an MVP that I think you bootstrapped with money you sold with money you raised from your website that you sold in high school. But yeah, so that process was it was pretty. I don't want to say it was easy, but it was really educational because the people who invested in us took us kind of under their wing and taught us about what's an operating agreement, how does an LLC work, like how do all the really basic stuff. Yeah. So we did that, but yeah, we transitioned to Designli once Applets wasn't making any money. I remember moving back home because I dropped out of school. Let's see, what year was that? I guess 2013. Moved back home. Was living with my mom, and I'm like, I got to get out of here.
The dream.
I got to do something. We got to make some money. And at that point, Applets wasn't really. There was like no traction. We had a user base, but no traction.
Yeah, we had 16,000 users, so that's not nothing. But
Right.
we didn't make any money.
Yeah.
So.
But what was cool is that a lot of those users, they didn't want to submit their idea to our app idea competition. So they would say, hey, I have this idea for this app. Can you help me build it? And we're like, it's not really our thing. But then as we got closer to the end of that runway, we're like, that's looking pretty good. Like, we'll build that app for you.
First pivot.
There's several, but the first pivot was
like $2,000 for the first build or something.
It was something like that. It was a fixed price deal.
Yeah.
They're like, how much is it going to cost? We're like, I don't know. So it was like $2,000 to $5,000 or something. Yeah. So we built that and kind of. Yeah. The flywheel began.
Yeah. So you guys swam around in the mud for a long time on iteration 1.
Yeah.
And then iteration 2, true Designli, out of Greenville. I know you came here first, right? You guys were traveling, or what was the genesis there? How Greenville?
This particular iteration was still like I was still in college, year 5, because it took some time off. Whatever, he was living in mom's basement.
Yeah.
But real quick before we talk about the Greenville move, to answer your question on Designli is bootstrapped, but we had investors. So we felt the need to do the right thing, and so we moved the convertible note into Designli. And we're like, we're making money over here now, and this company, we ended up paying them back for revenue generated over here before it converted to equity.
Got it.
So
okay.
That's why the friends and family are not quite friends and fools.
Yeah,
they got moderate return.
It turned into a note. They got paid out, and the rest is history.
Precisely.
Got it. Okay, cool.
And we could do that because it really was like mainly friends and family. So there's not like any sort of institutional people, but
they didn't care that it changed entities. Yeah,
they're like whatever, sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much how it worked.
So the iterations from there, we were talking. Sorry to derail. We were talking about fixed fee Designli. You do anything you possibly can to get a customer. But we had this customer base organically coming from this Applets business. Like, I'll pay you some money to build it instead of showing my idea to the world. People that had a little bit more serious ideas that they wanted to own instead of just give to us. And so we were doing fixed fee for a long time. We burnt a lot of years. Our iterations are very slow. So we burnt, 3-4 years on fixed price. We're like, okay, this is really not the best way of doing things because customers don't understand software. Software is hard. Marrying those two things with a promise before you even spend time scoping it is one of the silliest concepts there is. So then we moved to time and materials, but customers also don't want a blank check. And so balancing that was 5-6 years of learning. I don't know.
And so in that process, I recall you guys also targeting kind of corporate enterprise for a while. There was sort of a thought of, hey, maybe some of these big companies want to build apps out of departments or something like that, right? A period of time of chasing that leg.
Right.
Still chasing that.
Yeah. Okay.
And so you're totally right. We fell into services as a business model. There was no business plan for Designli. And then we just hung up a shingle saying we build apps, and it didn't get much more complex than that. It was like the most simple, billboard you could make. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so we've had a bear of a time defining an ICP. It's like the first thing a B2B SaaS Founderville company should do is like, who are you selling to? Like define them, and then where do they live? And then what's the messaging for them? When you're a services company, like anyone want some apps? you have a hard time nailing down like we do this precisely for this person because we can do it for
anybody,
anyone,
right,
startups,
right.
Big companies, whatever. And so that's why we just kind of
was that sort of the point where you really started to see real traction, right? Where the model is like, oh, okay, this is actually going to be super profitable and we can grow from here. This is going to work.
There was a few stages, I think. One of them was shortly after coming to Greenville. And I think I met you first before Keith because I had moved here, to answer your question earlier. And actually, you were my first contact in Greenville. You met me at Starbucks.
Oh, wow.
For real?
Yep.
How did you reach?
How about that?
How do you know to reach out to
I think Next introduced me. I think it was Brenda, actually. She introduced me to you, and then I met you.
That's like 2014 or something.
Yep.
Yeah,
and Scott,
nice.
Scott
10 years ago. Excellent.
Scott kind of took us under his wing there too, and then through
small wings, very short.
They're very valuable wings for us.
valuable short wings.
But yeah, so one of the first ways we started getting traction was we used to charge a really low amount, and we just started charging more, and that was the first way to get traction. After that, we started switching from more of the time and materials model because scope is flexible, not fixed. That was another one. And the most recent one, which happened about a year and a half ago, is switching purely to like an agile team model. So that is by far the most meaningful change because we now have customers who total over $2 million in lifetime value. Yeah. So you basically have the lifetime value focus is really the key because if you have recurring teams, you're constantly delivering value, and you have a product that's you either helped find product market fit or already has product market fit. That's going to be a lot more powerful of a revenue generating model.
Yeah,
so you can kind of start seeing this like headcount model. Or monthly recurring revenue model instead of like a churn and burn product model.
Right. Count on it.
Super consistent. So year after year, we have this baseline revenue that keeps building up. So that's the real key, I think, and by far the biggest change for our business.
So it's interesting to think about your parallel path of finding product market fit, and it's an evolving thing, right? It's constantly moving. You're trying to find that thing, and at the same time, you're helping your client with product market fit, and it's elusive to them. What's the thing that you see from particularly founders as a lessons learned as you see founders try to find product market fit in your customer base?
There's a super clear one that comes up right away, and that's trying to build too much. So the idea of an MVP, like an MVP means different things to different products. So it doesn't have to mean like this napkin sketch, like really crappy thing, right? Some products that is the case, but other ones it's if you're doing like a medical software, you can't do that. It has to have follow HIPAA guidelines, has to be secure, or maybe there's a big feature set. But there is always an MVP that you can build, and the idea is to get that launched as soon as you possibly can, because that reduces a huge amount of risk. I've seen far too many products wait until month 7, 8, 9, 10, a year. To launch, and then at that point there's always going to be bugs. People are going to start using it and say, "Oh, this is didn't like it.
Got to
not going to pay for it."
Got to iterate.
It's a killer, and it's got to get out in the field. People have to sell it. They got to use it.
Yep.
And until somebody's using it, you cannot get actual meaningful feedback. It's just assumptions. It's theory until then. So, we see it too. It's don't wait too long. Get the product out. Go sell it to somebody. Get anybody using it and get feedback.
It's the number one most important thing. And I've seen products where people are really convinced about that they have like a this is it. But turns out maybe it's not always always that.
Right. Yeah, you got to try it. You got to get people touching it, feeling it. Yep. So really good transition to talk about the role that we appreciate you guys playing with us, being an investor alongside us in Founderville.vc, and that really is about Greenville founders like yourselves who've had success giving back and investing in the next generation of Greenville founders. So we really appreciate you guys participating in that. Maybe also tell us a little bit about your thought in the residency program. Shape, maybe you want to kick that into gear.
Yeah,
don't
I mean,
know what that
absolutely.
is, but how these guys play.
I mean, for those of you that don't know, we recently announced a residency program here in Greenville. We're going to be recruiting software companies to Greenville to build here with other software companies collectively at Flywheel Co-working, supported by the group right here and many, many others that want to help build the companies right here in Greenville. And just announced it, fired up about it. There's a lot of ancillary benefits that come along with it, not the least of which is at least a $100,000 investment. That's a tidbit, though. There's a lot more benefit than that. And you guys are kind enough to play a role in that. And, you know, having service providers like you guys here in Greenville that can offer the value that you do is amazing. I think it's one of the benefits that we have in Greenville to recruit companies here and to build here is that it's folks like you and many other service providers that can wrap our companies together. You know, to Scott's point, I mean, what's got you guys fired up about it? I mean, I love that y'all are investors in the fund. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that too, why you invested. But we'd love to hear about your particular offering and what you want to do to help support the companies that come to Greenville.
Totally. Well, you're about to talk. We just yesterday we put together a list. B2B SaaS founders are an ICP of ours, right? It's like once they get to a point where software is not a CapEx, like I'm doing this for 2 months, then I'm done. Once they get a little bit of traction, like what you're recruiting to Greenville, and then you have an OpEx mentality of we are going to continue to improve and iterate, and we're going to help guide the backlog. That's an ICP of ours. And so we just put together a list of common pain points or things that a B2B SaaS founder says that we hear all the time that speaks to something we could help with, yes, but also like we can help figure out what's the underlying problem there that is either a process problem or your developers aren't thinking like product guys too, or hey, you need a better QA process or what have you. So we're very well equipped to talk about why we're excited about B2B SaaS companies in Greenville. Obviously, we love Greenville too.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me is I think Greenville's a great place to come to build a company. It's like really family friendly. The business community here is amazing. It's small, but as you guys know, it's a very giving business community. And I think us being able to help with people who are in a residency program, we offer what we call our solution lab. It's really we sit down and we work with people to understand their pain points and try to analyze their UI UX, see how where the gaps are in their analytics. And I think that's a really helpful thing for people who are trying to build something and try to figure out what's the next stage to find product market fit. I think a lot of people, they think really big. They start with that vision, but they really need help paring that back into what is that first launch version. And that's, I think we really excel in helping people find that fit.
It's so needed. It's interesting. Of the 7 investments we've made to date through the fund, really the majority have not come from developers, right? I mean, the founders are domain experts in a particular field. They're sales and marketing based. They're operational based. They see a niche, but they don't write code.
Yeah.
Right. They don't write code. So their understanding of it, particularly if they're first-time founders, is slim, right? It's minimal. They don't understand. So they do have this huge vision, but no understanding of what it actually takes to go build this thing and how efficient it needs to be done and how quickly. I think, you guys see it all the time, right? I mean, tell me that's not a huge problem effectively with any type of founders.
It's I think it's one of the biggest problems, actually. So we have a lot of people who are those people. They're domain experts. They don't know anything about technology, or if they do, it's a little bit. But they're not developers. They're not designers usually. So they really need a team to help them build that thing, and also how to approach the problem. So I think that is one of the biggest.
That's the key, is how to approach the problem, right?
Yeah.
So we love. As you guys know, we love a founder or co-founder team that understands a domain deeply,
yes,
however niche it may be, right? In fact, for us, the more niche, the better, because it's something that can be accomplished. It doesn't have to boil the ocean. And yet, bringing that to bear and to birth it requires a first tiny step to get some traction, right? So how do you guys anticipate working with the new founders? We're looking to recruit founders into Greenville to bring them here, and then engage with you guys. How does that package look? We know it's going to be kind of unique and custom to each one, but what do you guys anticipate there?
You're main.
I could take it. So we starting with the digestible, like you don't have to get married to us piece is very important. So the solution lab that Josh is talking about.
We can hold hands first, right?
Yeah, exactly. You got to hold hands, see if my hands are clammy, which they are. So,
Used to it.
So if you're a B2B SaaS founder, what's the revenue range for the residence program?
It can, 10,000 in ARR up to practically 150,000 ARR. So it's a wide range, but it's we love it super early, right?
It is
early stage.
But there's already traction there, right?
I'm sorry?
You already have traction at that point, right?
You have to have some customers.
Bit.
If you have customers, you have B2B SAS. Come on,
you found someone to pay you.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah,
that's all you need.
So to that point, how can we assist in this? What does this 2-week discovery sprint look like? The solution lab, it is customized, but again, the disciplines that we can assign are design, product owner, front end developer, back end developer, mobile developer, QA, right, and DevOps. And so the foundation of this is kind of going to be dictated based on how that person got to that traction they have today. Mm-hmm. So some people have a CTO where the CTO built a proof of concept and they sold it to a couple customers, but now it's like, oh, these enterprise fish are coming wanting it, and this is going to break down. It's not scalable. It looks horrible. The UX is the worst, and I don't trust my CTO enough to go and scale it up.
That's super common, by the way. That's like one of our most common.
That's
customers.
A pretty common customer type of ours. Another is, hey, I outsource to a firm, and I send them an email saying there's a urgent bug, and I don't hear back from them for 7 days. Like they're distracted. Most firms work hourly, so they're just doing hour here, hour there. Like there's no dedicated focus. Again, back to why Designli does it the other way. And so what we're going to do is analyze the design system, the components library, where can the UX be improved for the product. We're going to analyze the code and why might bugs be thrown every time you try to tweak something. Mm-hmm. We're going to analyze the server infrastructure and understand why is this thing breaking down anytime you get a spike of usage? It's kind of the whole picture of looking at what you have and doing real tactical outputs per each of these disciplines. So our designer is going to go take your design system, and maybe you have this crappy proof of concept for the first $10,000 sale. Not crappy, but wobbly. Let's say
wobbly.
It could be crappy, but it's wobbly. You're not totally thrilled about it.
Right.
And now you can do the next sale by doing some design concept art of like, hey, this is version 2, or this is the new feature. You don't have to build that guts yet. Let's go and design the simulation of, do you want this feature too? It's an extra $5K. Like you can do some sales stuff there. On the development side, you can do a code audit and again understand how this code will be brought into the future, or does it have to be rewritten? And so that's kind of the goal of a first 2-week discovery.
What I love is you guys have done this so many times, right? That this is not your first rodeo in working with early stage founders, and so we're delighted that you guys are going to be part of that and bring your expertise to it, and the many iterations of not only your own company kind of finding your path to success, but helping these other founders to navigate it and building this fantastic stable base of 30 companies that are producing, I'm sure, great results today.
Yeah, this is the power of the overall ecosystem we're building here too. If you think about the fund, you guys are 2 of 45 Greenville investors that committed $6.5 million to this fund that we're all collectively putting to work. And as we put this money to work, some of this money is coming to you guys, and you guys are building for the companies you're already invested in. I think that is so cool. Fast forward that, we're going to bring these additional companies in. You guys get a close look at them. They get a close look at you. We then feel even more comfortable investing in that company as you guys are doing exactly what you just said you're going to do, right? You're the validation for us in many cases, which we believe is going to generate greater returns for the investors, which feeds this whole cycle, right? So it all works together, and I think just having you guys as a part of this, we're fired up.
Yeah, and I think it's super appropriate that you guys are our 1.0 iteration on podcast at founderbill.vc.
Yeah. Yep.
I like it.
We're the MVP.
Because you're
the MVP.
You were our 1.0 of coming to Greenville and trying to plug in and meet someone. Yeah. So because again, as an investor, I think that's a great point. As an investor, you need to know how does this business work today under the hood? and what is it going to take to get to the next sale or the next 100 customers. And so you need technical folks, aka developers, to also understand the business case and rank new features on impact versus effort. That's that matrix that we scope all new features with. And so that's what hopefully this 2-week plan, which we do all the time for all of our customers, we'll bring to the table.
There's a big difference between like what gets you that first customer to and what gets you the next 1,000, right? I think that system looks totally different usually. So it's like I think people who build a really small MVP that's like quick and dirty, I think that's actually a great thing because it takes time to figure out what's going to make achieve product market fit. But I think that next step, people need more, I would say, mature engineering teams with kind of that infrastructure built in, especially if you are a non-technical person. That's, I think, where we really fit.
Which works well, again, with what we're doing is we bring these companies in, right, and they've done the version 1, but they need version 2. They're beginning to scale. They're looking towards what feature set, what functionality, how do I do it? And then we can rely on you guys to just handle it, which I think it's an incredible asset for us.
Yeah, no, it's I think also for you guys recruiting all this great talent to Greenville. I've been really bullish on Greenville for 10 years now, and I can see why it's growing so much. But it's also nice to finally have resources like this for high growth companies and startup software companies in Greenville. I think the first time I sat down at the Next Center. We were talking about like, it's so hard to get capital in Greenville. And there was like what was it, like Google, get out of Greenville or whatever. Do you remember that?
Right. Get out of Greenville, look elsewhere.
Yeah, right. And that's not true anymore. I think that's completely changed. It's completely different now. And I think COVID had a big part of that where people could go work remote and live somewhere where their quality of life is really high. And that is Greenville. And I think having access to capital and people who not only just access to the capital, but people who have been there, done that, which we now have, I think that's huge. That's like super key to this whole thing working, and the timing is great.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the value of bringing together, under the Founderville umbrella, founders who've done it before, right? Is we've got an amazing number of founders in Greenville who have had tremendous success. Bringing them together and bringing them to bear on this opportunity has been a challenge. We never thought we'd be back in startup land, but Founderville.vc turns out it's startup, right? It's just like a moth to the flame.
It's the most fun, though.
But we think we're moving the needle. So I'm glad to hear that you guys are seeing it a little bit differently than it has been, certainly 10 years ago. And again, delighted to have you guys along for the ride on this thing. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Heck yeah.
We appreciate the opportunity to be part of it.
It's going to be great. We're going to have a good time. It's gonna grow. Who knows where it's going to go, but it will grow.
Yeah. And thank you guys for being here today. Much appreciated. Thanks for being part of the podcast.
Absolutely. Awesome.
All right. And as a wrap.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a wrap. Thank you all for joining us. We appreciate it.